Well, what is going on, guys, and welcome to a brand new episode. Welcome to all the brand new subscribers on Masai Gains channel. If you're new to the channel, you can expect the best of Land Cruiser content. You can expect the best of just automotive content in general. I love videoing high quality stuff. Today, as you can see and as you can hear, you join me on yet again another crazy rainy day. I'm sure you just saw from the opening clips of this video. You join me on another rainy, cold day in Nairobi. It is July, it is our winter. We don't usually have rain, but since El Nino, we've had a lot of rainfall this year. And so yet again, a video in the rain. And today, I wanted to take you guys through the 2UZ-FE, the venerable 4.7 liter V8 engine that came in the 100 series, the first V8 that Toyota put in the Land Cruiser, the same engine that is used in the Toyota Tundra, and the same engine that has crossed 1 million miles in so many vehicles. This is 2UZ-FE. This is Toyota's most venerable petrol V8 motor. I'm gonna tell you how to maintain this motor so you can actually reach those higher mileages. So stay tuned. This is going to be an informative video. We're going to be in the front of the vehicle, and I hope you enjoy. If you do, make sure you hit like, subscribe, comment down below. All right, let's get right into it, guys. Now, let me just sort of get us to a destination where we can get in the front of the vehicle. It is, of course, as I mentioned, so rainy, but you know, I love being in the Land Cruiser Cygnus. For those of you that have not caught the videos before, this is my Land Cruiser Cygnus, pretty much the same as the LX 470 for those of you in the US. I know we say this is one of the finest vehicles that was ever made in terms of luxury, in terms of just dynamism. You know, this vehicle can do everything. I wouldn't say it does everything amazingly well, but certainly this vehicle can do everything pretty well. And that's very rare for vehicles these days. In fact, you'll be hard pressed to find another vehicle that can do everything so well. You know, if you want to go off-road, if you want to go to a luxury event, you want to go to, you know, you want to feel luxury, but at the same time you want a car that's capable and can take you anywhere, you'll be hard pressed to find anything that compares to the Cygnus or the LX 470. And you know, before getting into the engine today, for those of you that don't follow petrol motors, or those of you that are not quite sure, Toyota came out with the 80 series, and I'm just talking about petrol motors, guys. I know there were diesels, we can go into that in another video, but for the petrol motors, the 80 series, of course, had the 1FZ-FE, which I have in my 80 series, and you know, I love it, guys. It's a fantastic motor. We're just going over a bit of rough stuff right now. This is where I love the hydraulic suspension because it just does it so well. These are big holes, but we're floating pretty well, and that's the wafty nature of the Cygnus. Now, the 2UZ-FE was an engine that really turned up in a lot of Land Cruisers, a lot of Tundras, a lot of GX 460s, and it was just known as, you know, the reliability king. Now, I'm not saying this engine without you know, the regular and preventative maintenance that we're going to go over in this video, I'm not saying it's perfect, and I will mention a few of the issues that people do encounter is usually due to the fact of not doing that preventative maintenance or just not knowing enough about this engine. And that's why we're at today's video. The purpose of this video, if you're getting into a 2UZ-FE, or if you have a 2UZ-FE, I'd like you guys to maintain it the way I believe is the best way to maintain this motor, so you can actually get the full life out of it. Because you have to remember that we are in Nairobi, we are in Kenya, and so our fuel quality is not as good as, you know, the Western countries and all of that. So your vehicles will suffer more. And so if you have that wear and tear in mind, you can counteract it, and you can just make your vehicle get the most out of your vehicle. So let's get into the front of the vehicle and let's dive into what you have to do to keep this motor running well and amazing and just purring along for kilometers and thousands of kilometers and more. Alright, so welcome to a brand new episode, guys. Now, as you can see here, I have got my 2UZ-FE. As I mentioned, this is the V8, and this is the engine that has gone million miles in just so many Land Cruisers and so many Tundras. So, you know, what are the basics of this engine? This engine produces about 235 horsepower. It's a good torquey engine, but it's a petrol, so you won't get as much torque as the diesel engines. But what this engine does really well is revs, sounds amazing, and very, very smooth. If you guys have seen videos of V12 Rolls Royces and you see how smooth those engines are, forgive me for the thunder and the lightning. We're in a cold day today where we're shooting. In fact, the lightning just doesn't want to stop, so lots of electricity in the clouds today. But yes, this is a petrol motor that really loves to rev. It really sounds good. I would say it's different from like my 1FZ-FE in my 80 series. You know, the 1FZ-FE, it still produces a lot of torque, or at least you feel a lot of that torque low down in the rev range. But with the Cygnus, I do feel like most of the torque comes after 4,000 or 5,000 RPM. So this is a high revving engine. This is an engine that sounds amazing, and this is an engine also that is quite underpowered. That's usually how Toyota achieves their reliability. They put you a V8, but they make it quite underpowered, and that's why you'll see a lot of people that are able to tune these engines and get a lot more power out of them. So what do you have to do? What are the basics to keep this engine running well for a long period of time? Well, first of all, let's go over the basics. This engine requires 5W30 oil. 5W30 available in most regions in the world, a fully synthetic oil, but when 5W30 is not available, you can go with 5W40. 5W30 is a bit more expensive, but if you can go with 5W30, which is what I'm running in this, you will notice the engine is more silent. You will notice the engine performs better, is more silky smooth, and just overall the oil is not getting dirty as fast as 5W40, which is just slightly thicker. So go with the right oils in these vehicles, guys. And the second thing I would say, change your oil every 6 months or every 7,000 to 8,000 kilometers, whichever one comes first. A lot of people in Nairobi will say, you know, these are Land Cruisers, these are so reliable, these vehicles are so reliable that you don't even have to worry about the oil changes, or you just, you know, you can also put any type of oil and it'll just be fine. That's not the case. That's not what I listen to, guys. Put the oil that the manufacturer recommends. Change the oil regularly. If you don't drive your vehicle a lot, this is my daily driver, but recently I haven't been driving it as much as I need to, and so I'm ending up changing the oil every 6 months rather than every 10,000 kilometers. If you're driving more regularly, the kilometer interval might come quicker. But there are multiple videos online that you guys can look at for how oil sits over time and how oil kind of burns over time. And according to what I've learned, I believe if you wait for the 6-month interval, that oil is losing a bit of its burning properties. Just change the oil out. And this is a saying that I always say, guys, that engine oil is definitely cheaper than brand new engines, you know, or secondhand engines. So just do your oil changes more regularly. You have to remember at the end of the day that you're buying a vehicle that is at the top of its range. This is a Land Cruiser, you know, it doesn't share parts with other vehicles. It doesn't share parts with any other Toyota model. It is a Land Cruiser, and it has specific parts for Land Cruiser, and it is built in a specific factory in Japan. So if all those things Toyota is doing to give you such a well-built and reliable vehicle, all you have to do is preventative maintenance, which involves the things I'm saying: regular oil changes, keeping the engine running well. Now let's move up to the next thing, which is spark plugs. What would you do with spark plugs these days? I have noticed the condition or the quality of spark plugs these days is not as they used to be. Now the Land Cruisers, typically you will want to go with iridium, and you will want to go with the genuine spark plugs, which are Denso or NGK. Denso typically works well for me, but go with the iridium spark plug. Don't just go to your independent mechanic and he picks up some random normal spark plugs that are not iridium. He tells you they'll work fine. You will notice that you'll end up changing spark plugs much more often. So give the vehicle what it needs. The 2UZ-FE, typically the engine coils are quite reliable, so you will not have to replace engine coils, but definitely spark plugs should be replaced. Now my spark plugs, when they came in this vehicle, when I bought it, they were still the original plugs, And in the owner's manual for the 2007 Land Cruiser, they tell you to change the iridium spark plugs every 100,000 kilometers, or it might even be higher than that. So the original spark plugs that Toyota put in these vehicles could last a very long time, guys, and that's something that you will want to keep in mind. But I just changed mine when I crossed over 100,000 kilometers. That's just good preventative maintenance. I thought the vehicle deserves some fresh plugs because it's nearing an age of 15 plus years. Why not give it some fresh plugs? Maybe it'll even help the engine coils last a bit longer. That just tends to be my mindset and my sort of my ideology on maintenance. Now the next big item you want to go through on this engine is timing belt and water pump. So it's a very simple, you guys know with petrol, it's very simple. You do the correct oil, you change the oil filter every time you service, and you change the air filter. Sometimes the air filter is not dirty, you guys can gauge on that. It's not a guarantee that you change it with every oil service if you're not in a dirty climate, but Kenya is very dusty, lots of constructions going on. Just change your air filter, it doesn't cost that much, and it's how your engine breathes, guys. So, just change it. Timing belt and water pump. Now, 2UZ-FE, you guys know my Land Cruiser 80 series. I don't have to do anything regarding a timing belt, but that's because the 2UZ-FE had a timing chain, and a timing chain tends to last the life of the vehicle. Now, I'm not sure why they moved to timing belts with the 2UZ-FE, but they did. So every single 100 series, guys, and this is the major maintenance item, this is the major item that some people seem to just overlook, and I know these belts are very reliable, but you should not overlook this item. So timing belt is supposed to be changed every 100,000 kilometers, guys. It's almost like a diesel motor where you have to look at injectors every 100,000. This is not an injector though, and it's much cheaper, but it's a timing belt. It's responsible for the timing of the engine, and a good practice is when you change that timing belt, change the water pump with it, because you're in there already, you've done the labor to get in there. Change the water pump as well. I made that mistake. I changed the timing belt without the water pump, and 2 years later I changed my water pump. Wasn't very smart, but labor is a bit better here in Africa, and so maybe I can do that, but you guys in other countries just change them together. So major maintenance item, guys, timing belt, and make sure the timing is done correctly. You look at this, look at the amount of lightning today. It's just unbelievable. Pretty much this whole video. But so make sure you guys change that timing belt, and make sure you change the water pump together. Make sure that the person doing the timing belt knows how to line the belt in the correct timing. It shouldn't be too much of an issue if your mechanic knows what he's doing. Now, apart from that, guys, this engine is so reliable. So if you take care of that one major item I've told you, if you use the 5W30 oil, and if you change those plugs, this engine loves it. You're not going to have to worry about coolant leaks. This engine does pretty well with those kind of leaks. In fact, it does well with all kinds of leaks. I don't want to jinx it, so touch wood. I've been okay so far, and I believe if you use those correct oils, you will also be okay and not develop much leaks. And the only other item I would mention to go along with this engine is change the ATF. A lot of Land Cruiser owners also are very iffy about changing automatic transmission fluid, guys. A lot of people say, no, it's a lifetime fluid, or Toyota has said it's a lifetime fluid. The transmission is sealed and we can't change the fluid. That's all nuts. That's all nonsense. Of course you can change the fluid, and it's got a metal strainer even, which you can clean out. So change the fluid, clean out the strainer, and get fresh ATF in there. You will notice, I promise you, you'll notice the difference in performance, and it'll help your engine just run better. Now, kind of auxiliary items instead of the engine, because we've pretty much covered the essentials, guys. As long as you do that, this engine is so venerable, it's so reliable that it's not going to give you issues. It's just built that well. It doesn't need too much, but it needs the correct oil, and it needs the timing belt done. And one major thing that I would mention with this engine is that a lot of people with 100 series, like in the market, there are cheaper 100 series available and there are more expensive 100 series. Some people don't understand, like the cheaper ones, there's always a reason, guys, that a 100 series is cheaper. And most of the case it's because it's been overheated. I've seen specific cases, guys, where people buy vehicles and they drive off-road and they go to a safari, and suddenly their vehicle is overheating. They're not so mechanically inclined, so they think, this whole generation of Land Cruiser is just crap. That's not true at all. It's totally based on previous owners and previous owners' maintenance. And definitely, if you are not keen with maintenance, if you're someone who doesn't also understand how vehicles run, you know, and you don't even look at your speedometer, which, trust me guys, there are people who exist like this. You don't even look at your speedometer. There's a lot of people that will overheat the engine. You will see the engine temperature, the coolant temperature, you will see it going up, but these people will just miss that. And if you miss that and you cook your engine for even 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you will cause lasting damage on the engine, and then you will have to open up this engine and do more work. So, you know guys, the rain is getting crazy. Let's round this up. I've covered the basic maintenance, the things you must do, and the extra things, which is, if you're getting into this vehicle for the first time, don't just buy a 100 series because it's the cheapest one you could find. You would rather do a test on the engine. You'd rather give the engine a proper stress test to see that it can maintain the temperatures, because these engines do maintain their temperatures and they maintain their gaskets very well, and they should reach even 1,000,000 kilometers if you're very lucky with those items. Now granted, as I mentioned earlier, our fuel in Kenya is not the best, so if you want, replace the fuel filter in your Land Cruiser. Replace the fuel filter. It's not the most expensive part. Replace the fuel filter more regularly than it says in the owner's manual, and you'll be fine. And apart from that, getting the engine with the right oils, letting the engine breathe, regularly running the engine. This engine is one of the most stress-free items, or one of the most stress-free experiences that I've had. And so I had to make a video on the 2UZ-FE and what you need to know to get your engine, or get the best mileage out of your engine. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Obviously a quicker video today. If you did, make sure you hit like, subscribe, comment down below. I'm sorry for the noise if it wasn't that clear. It's just been crazy rain. It's difficult to, you know, to get time and shoot a video properly, but lots more content coming up. If you're enjoying, make sure you hit like, subscribe, comment down below, and I hope you enjoyed. It's been Masai Gaines checking out.